Now here's what I'm mentioning to you. This enrollment period is a different process. All right? Now my initial enrollment period that I enroll at 65, if indeed I'm going to go on Medicare then, that can all be done online, totally done online. This cannot be. Why? Well, because there's 2 documents that are added to this process. One of those is called the Request for Employment Information. Now, I know you can't see that, okay? I'm just showing it for this purpose. It's a 1-page document that has to be filled out by your human resource department or somebody within your company that has employment records. Because what we have to do is we have to verify that you have been working and covered by an employer-provided plan all the way back to 65. So the lady who's 79, we got to go back 14 years. Her husband, 83, we got to go back 18 years. And fortunately for them, they only had one employer the whole time. So the HR department filled this paperwork out, verifying they've been working and verified that they had insurance the whole time. Now here's what I want you to learn from this. If you continue working past 65, folks, never go even a month without insurance. So if you happen to transition jobs, you want to be sure that you do not go without insurance. Okay, because we have to verify that you have had coverage. In fact, I've had people who knew they were going to be without insurance for 1 month who called me and I say, go on Medicare for a month. Okay, you don't want to go without insurance. So they went on Medicare, got a job, started insurance there, and then we terminated their Medicare. You can do that, all right? And so you don't want to go without insurance if you work past 65 because we have to have this document completed with every month accounted for back to 65. So if I'm 69, I'm going on Medicare, I'm going to go back 4 years. So however old you are, we have to verify that. There's a second document, and it's totally different. I just laminated together. But on this one, I know you can't see it, but this particular document is what we call a CMS 40B. And you're going to notice the white space here. And the purpose of that white space is we're going to tell them when we want to start our Medicare. So if I know my group plan at work is over, let's say, March 31st, and I want my Medicare to start April 1, I'm going to put on this document, please begin my Medicare April 1, 2020. So we actually will tell them the month that we want to start those benefits. All right? So when someone says to me, my coverage is going to end, June 30th, I'm going to tell them on Medicare, we want to start July 1. So whenever that plan ends, at midnight, this thing's going to kick in at 12:01 a.m. And we have to let Medicare know when we're going to do that, all right? So employer verifies insurance and employment. We pick the date, and now we're going to go down to a local Social Security office. Now, you can fax these in. I know that. Sometimes people mail them in. But if you can, if you're close enough to a Social Security office, we prefer you go down. And when you walk into a Social Security office today, almost always you're greeted by a guard, sometimes by a metal detector. And they'll ask you, what are you here for? And you'll say, well, I'm here to enroll in Medicare. And typically the guard says, well, do you have some paperwork? And you'll say, I sure do. And normally they'll say, well, just drop it in the box over there. I would encourage you, don't drop it in the box, okay? I followed up on plenty of cases when the paper was dropped in the box, and we follow up in about 2 or 3 weeks and find out there's no enrollment yet, okay? So I would encourage you, have the time, get a number, take a seat, take your turn, go to the front, and say this. You're there 1 minute. I'm here to enroll in Medicare. I just want to make sure my paperwork is right. The person at the counter will look it over. If it's all correct, it'll get processed flawlessly, okay? And so we don't like it when you put things in the box there because sometimes they do not get processed. And it just so happened it could be you that didn't get yours processed. All right, so that's the process. So it's a total different system that we have to follow when we're coming in using special enrollment, right? Trip to the Social Security office. And so I want to make sure you're clear on this process. Now, this particular statement that I'm going to clarify for you is very important. And it comes out of a book that is called Medicare and You. Now, the 2020 version's out. I just haven't picked one up yet. But this is Medicare and You. It's a very good resource. I really like it because it gives us some of the details of preventive services that you're eligible for when you go on Medicare. And so, a great book. But out of this book comes this statement that I want to explain because it's going to have bearing for you. And it says this, that you can use the SEP and you can sign up for Medicare anytime while you are still working. Some don't realize this, but there are lots of folks today that are working and they're on Medicare, meaning they have said no to the group employer provided plan. They weren't interested any longer in that plan, and they're going on Medicare while working. Well, why would people do that? Here, let me tell you the why behind it and what you need to be aware of. First off, every employer on an annual basis goes through what we would call an open season. You're familiar with this. The company picks whatever insurance company they're going to use, and they usually give you maybe 3 or 4 plan options. And they're telling you to pick out the plan that's going to best serve you for the coming year. You pick one of those out. What I would encourage you to do, if you're Medicare eligible, look at what the employer has to offer. And remember, you also have Medicare as an option. All right? Now, we'll have people ask us frequently. Can you help me make that decision? We're glad to do that. But here's what I have to know if you want us to help you with that decision. I want to know, first of all, the premium that you're paying out of your pocket. What is the deductible on the plan, and do you ever meet it? Number 3, is there co-insurance on the plan, which is the 80-20, 90-10, you pay the 10 or 20? And then what is the max out-of-pocket attached to the plan? Meaning if you got cancer, what's the most that you would spend on that plan? And then lastly, I want to know about your medications. I can tell you that if you're on a lot of expensive medications, almost always I will stay right where you are on the group plan. Medicare covers meds, but not usually quite as affordable as what a group plan will. All right, we'll see that here in a few minutes. But the point is, I want to know about meds as well before we make that decision. So I want to know premium, deductible, do you ever meet it, max out of pocket with the co-insurance, and your medications. And with that information, we can help you to determine whether you should look at Medicare or not seriously. All right, now, listen, I would never have you go on Medicare if someone's going to be hurt by that decision. So if you have a younger spouse on the plan at work, you have children that are covered up to the age of 26 that are on your work plan, I would tell you probably stay right where you are. Because if you move to Medicare, that's going to affect their coverage adversely, and that would not be a good thing to do. But if you can move to Medicare, no one's going to be hurt by that, that may make sense. Now, if you're married to someone that's also Medicare eligible, I want to know 2 things about your premium. I want to know employee-only price and employee plus spouse price. Why is that? Well, what we're finding many times, in fact, I just wrote one, had a lady whose price was $110 only for her. Adds her spouse, it jumped to $550 premium. So she's actually paying $440 for his coverage. That is way more than what she's going to on Medicare, right? And so what we did is we recommended she stay on the group plan, put her husband, who's Medicare eligible, on Medicare, and they're going to save some substantial amount of money and also have better coverage, all right? And so that's what we would need to know. We're happy to help you to make that decision. We'll help you analyze that. And I promise you, if it's in your best interest to stay right where you are, we're going to tell you that. If we say, no, Medicare looks like it may be something beneficial, then we'll tell you that as well. But we're delighted to help. But that's what that statement means. And it also means this. Most of you are going to get, at least I hope you get, to pick your retirement day. So let's say you say, I am going to work until March 31st. Well, we want Medicare to start April 1. So what are we going to do? In advance, while you're still working, you're going to get this process going, right? You're going to meet with us or someone with your planning. You're going to enroll into ssa.gov. You're going to enroll into Medicare. You're going to make all these decisions so that when I lose the group plan, March 31, my Medicare begins April 1st, seamlessly, and everything that I would need as well. Okay, so do all that in advance. Okay, that's what that statement means. And then lastly, and this is very important, this statement says this, and it can be confusing, so I want to clarify it for you. It says here, you can use the SEP to sign up and start Medicare coverage anytime within 8 months after your active or your current employment provided coverage ends. Now that's a mouthful, folks. It is word for word out of the book. Okay, here's what it means. This is someone who, let's say they're 69. They decided not to take Medicare at 65. They had a group plan that they liked, theirs or their spouses, and they show up to work, they're 69 years old, and they just got fired. In fact, not only did they just get fired, maybe the whole department they're in is laid off, or maybe the whole company is going to shut down. They're not on Medicare, they chose to delay Medicare, and now very abruptly they're going to lose their insurance. And the question is this, if you make the choice to delay taking Medicare because you're covered by an employer-provided plan and you lose that coverage abruptly, do you have to panic about Medicare? And the answer is no. Why? Because they give us 8 months to come into Medicare if we're coming off an employer-provided plan. Now listen, I have worked with thousands and thousands of people. I've never had a single person take 8 months. I could explain why. It's too deep. I won't get into that today. But I have seen people take a month or 2 before starting their Medicare benefits. And I just want you to know, we actually can bring someone into Medicare in 1 day. Okay, I've done it. In fact, this last year, Halloween, October 31st, was on a Thursday. Okay, so Friday would have been the 1st. If someone would have wanted to enroll into Medicare effective November 1, as long as the HR department filled this out, right? Verifying employment insurance. We picked November 1. As long as the Social Security office is open, they're open till 4 every day. As long as they're open, you could drop that paperwork off at the counter and you would have started your Medicare coverage November 1st. Okay, it can be done in 1 day. Now, are we going to have a card? No. No. But do we have coverage? Yes. So if someone has a heart attack on that day, they're covered by Medicare as well as other insurance. So it doesn't take 8 months. It only takes 1 day, frankly. But you have 8 months to come in. And that's what they're saying. If you don't take Medicare at 65 because of a group plan, you have plenty of time to come in. All right, so that's the 8 months. Now, there's another reason we have this up here today that's even more important, and that's this. Does this say you can use the SEP to sign up and start Medicare coverage anytime within 8 months after you lose your retiree insurance? Does it say that? No. How about 8 months after you lose your COBRA insurance? Does it say that? How about 8 months after you lose your Affordable Care Act plan? Doesn't say that either. Here's my point. The only people who have an extra 8 months are those where they or their spouse continue to work after 65. Okay, they're the only ones that qualify for an SEP. And so many people read that statement in the book or online and they'll think, looks like everyone has an extra 8 months. No, you don't. If you are turning 65 and you are not working, this does not belong to you. You cannot come in using a special enrollment period. You must come in using your initial enrollment period. Okay? One of the saddest stories I've heard recently, in fact, I got on my phone, a lady texted me this, and this happened, she texted me actually in November. And what happened, she was turning 65 earlier in the year, I think it was right around April or so, and she was offered a severance package for retirement, which included 12 months worth of COBRA insurance paid by the company, no cost whatsoever. All right? So she and her husband approaching 65, she's going to retire. Company says, we'll give you 12 months paid for COBRA insurance, nothing out of your pocket. And so they asked the HR department, well, what should we do about Medicare? Well, someone in the HR department said, well, don't worry about Medicare. We're going to pay for your insurance. Once your COBRA expires, then you can go on Medicare. That was terrible advice. Because if you're approaching 65 and you're on COBRA, you have to start Medicare, right? Remember, retiree plans, you got to start Medicare. ACA plans, we got to start Medicare now. And so they listened to the HR department, probably meant well, but they gave them very bad advice, okay? They should have started Medicare at 65. So here's where the story turns south. The gentleman starts having some health problems, ends up being hospitalized, ends up having 2 surgeries to the tune of about $100,000 in bills so far, okay? And so as the claims start coming in, it's going to the insurance company, and any insurance company would handle it this way, but bills come in, insurance company realizes that they're on a COBRA plan, and they look at their age and realize, well, these folks are 65, they should have been on Medicare, but they're not. And so what they're telling this couple is they have to pay out of their own pocket what Medicare would have paid because that COBRA provider is in the second position. They're not going to pay first. So someone on COBRA who's approaching 65, they can keep COBRA, but they got to put Medicare in the first payer position. And so all those bills that Medicare should have paid had they enrolled at the right time, they're now responsible for. And then she texted me and said, do you know any attorney who specializes in this kind of situation? Okay, so they're going to have to sue their employer. Now here's my point, folks. Be careful who you listen to, okay? Those HR people are smart, they understand group plans, but so many times people do not connect all the dots on Medicare and they give bad advice and you act upon that bad advice, it could cost you dearly. And it's going to cost this couple dearly, okay? And so be very careful who you listen to. All right, so that's the SEP. Make sure you realize that this does not belong to everyone, only those who continue to work. Now I have one little quick quiz question and I want you to think about this, it's important, okay? If you are attempting to come into Medicare using the special enrollment period, how old are you at least? And I know you're 65, I got that. But how old are you in months if you're coming in using the SEP? Someone tell me, come on. Come on. 65 and 4 months old. At least. You could be 69, 72, 79, 120, I don't care. But anytime beyond 65 and 4 months old, this is the only way you can come in. And you had better been working back to 65 if you're going to use this, right? So if I'm 65 and 3 months old coming into Medicare, I can't do this. That's my initial enrollment period. Remember, folks? 3 months before, month of, 3 months after. And if I'm coming in at 65, that's when I have to do it. So this is for people who keep on working after 65. They're now at least 65 and 4 months old, and this is the process they must use. All right? Okay. Now, this is a summary of your enrollment opportunities, and then we'll get into other details of Medicare. First off, if you're going to come in at 65, you're going to do it during the initial enrollment period. How many months does that last? Someone tell me, please. 7 months. 7 months, that's it. Once they're gone forever. If someone starts at 65, I have 7 months to come in. And depending on what month I enroll will determine when they start my coverage, right? Now, if I'm going to keep working after 65, and I lose that group employer provided plan, I come in using the special enrollment period. Okay? This is all done online. This is going to require a trip from the Social Security office, verification of insurance and employment from the employer. I'm at least 65 and 4 months old and beyond if I'm using this. And then this last one's called the general enrollment period. This is the one I told you that stinks. Okay, I want everyone in this room to use either one or two, not this one. Now the couple I told you about that got bad advice from their HR department, this is the one that they're stuck with. Okay? It is January. Okay? When will their Medicare coverage begin? July 1 of this year. Okay? Now they've done their enrollment already. First 3 months you can enroll in a Medicare, but notice when the coverage starts, July 1. So because of bad advice, they still do not have any insurance other than their COBRA plan, which is going to pay second to Medicare. All right? Bad advice. Okay, now that should complete notes page 1. So let's go now, close your notes and go to the grid, Medicare grid, and let's start working our way through what we call the original Medicare A and B. So go to the grid, please. I look forward to having you join me in the next video so that you can continue learning the ins and outs of Medicare. When you're ready for personalized advice for your situation, all you have to do is go to MedicareSchool.com in order to get in touch with us. When you get there, you'll be given the opportunity to schedule a time to talk with an Enlighten You Medicare consultant. This is a completely free service for you and there's no strings attached. We'd love to answer your questions and if it makes sense, help you choose and get enrolled in the best plans for your needs.